Have you ever fallen so deeply in love that you'd risk everything for it, only to have the people you trust most turn their backs on you? I'm talking about the moment my family, my own flesh and blood, judged me harsher than any stranger could, all because of who I chose to love. This isn't just a story about romance. It's about the gut-wrenching pain of rejection, the fight to stand up for myself, and the lingering question of whether love can truly conquer all when the stakes are this high. Stick with me as I spill every raw, messy detail of how I fell for someone my family couldn't accept, how their words cut deeper than I ever thought possible, and how I'm still wrestling with the fallout years later. By the end, I'm going to need your help to figure out if I made the right choice, or if I've lost more than I can ever get back. Let's dive into this emotional roller coaster, from the highs of forbidden love to the lows of family betrayal, and see if there's a way to heal a heart torn in two. My name's Caleb, and I'm 29 now, sitting in my small loft apartment in Seattle, Washington, where the constant drizzle outside matches the heaviness I still carry in my chest. This story takes me back to 2015, when I was 21, a wide-eyed college junior in Spokane, Washington, figuring out who I was while navigating a world that felt both thrilling and terrifying. The core of this tale is the devastating clash with my family over my relationship with my partner, Amir, a kind-hearted guy who became my everything, but whose background and identity my conservative family refused to embrace. The emotional conflict tearing me apart is the battle between my fierce love for Amir, who showed me what true acceptance feels like, and the deep-rooted need for my family's approval, a longing tied to years of trying to make them proud. The unexpected twist came when I discovered that my family's rejection wasn't just about Amir. It was rooted in a hidden prejudice tied to a painful chapter of their past I never knew about. This all unfolds in Spokane and later Seattle, from 2015 to 2023, a journey of love, loss, and the search for belonging. I grew up in a tight-knit, working-class family in Spokane, in a neighborhood called Hilliard, where the streets are lined with modest bungalows and the air often smells of pine from nearby forests. Back in 2015, I was a 21-year-old student at Gonzaga University, studying graphic design, living in a cramped off-campus apartment with peeling paint and the constant hum of traffic outside. I wasn't exactly the golden child, more the quiet middle kid who stayed out of trouble, sketching in notebooks during family dinners at our old oak table, dreaming of a bigger life while my parents, both factory workers, preached the value of tradition and sticking to your own kind. My escape was the campus library, where I'd lose myself in art books, the smell of old paper grounding me as I imagined a future beyond Spokane's gray winters. That's where I met Amir in the fall of 2015, during a late-night study session, the library's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as I struggled with a project deadline. He was 23, a grad student in sociology, with a warm smile and a quiet confidence that drew me in like a magnet. He'd grown up in Seattle, the son of Iranian immigrants, and carried a mix of humor and depth that made every conversation feel like an adventure. We bonded over shared playlists and cheap coffee from the campus cafe, the bitter taste lingering as we talked about dreams and fears until the library closed. I'd never felt so seen, so understood, and within months, I knew I was falling hard, harder than I'd ever thought possible. But I also knew, deep down, that bringing him home to my family would be like walking into a minefield. By early 2016, I was still 21, and Amir and I were inseparable, spending weekends exploring Spokane's riverfront park, the chilly breeze off the Spokane River biting at our skin as we laughed over shared fries at a nearby diner. I'd lie awake in my tiny apartment, the distant sound of a train whistle cutting through the night, wrestling with how to tell my family about us. My parents were old school, raised on small-town values, and my older brother, Nate, often echoed their rigid views, while my younger sister, Ellie, was too caught up in high school drama to notice much. I'd grown up hearing subtle jabs at outsiders during Thanksgiving dinners, the smell of roasted turkey mixing with unease as I nodded along to keep the peace. Memories of trying to fit their mold, joining the church youth group, hiding my art when it got too weird, weighed on me, and I feared that loving Amir meant losing them. But every time I looked at him, his steady gaze grounding me, I felt a courage I didn't know I had, a whisper that maybe love was worth the risk. The storm hit in June 2016, when I was 21, during a family barbecue at our Hilliard backyard, the smoky scent of grilled burgers in the air as I finally worked up the nerve to mention Amir. I'd planned it for weeks, my heart pounding every time I drove past the old grain silos on my way home, picturing their reactions. I kept it vague at first, just saying I'd met someone special, but the second I mentioned his name and background, the air shifted. My dad's face hardened, his fork clattering against the picnic table, while Mom's forced smile couldn't hide her discomfort. Nate outright scoffed, muttering something about not fitting in, and Ellie just stared, wide-eyed. I stood there, the summer heat making me sweat more than I already was, feeling like I'd just lit a match in a room full of gasoline. They didn't yell, but their silence was worse. Disappointment so thick I could taste it, mixed with a judgment that made my stomach churn. I drove back to my apartment that night, the dark Spokane streets blurring past, feeling like I'd betrayed them just by being honest, wondering if I'd ever feel at home with them again. Through the rest of 2016, still 21, I was a wreck, torn between Amir's unwavering support and my family's cold shoulder. I'd meet Amir at Manitou Park, the lush gardens a quiet escape, but even his reassuring presence couldn't erase the ache of Mom's clipped phone calls or Dad's refusal to ask about my life. I'd walk past the clock tower in Riverfront Park alone sometimes, the steady tick of its hands mocking my spiraling thoughts, replaying childhood memories of fishing with Dad at Liberty Lake, his proud grin when I caught my first trout, now replaced by a wall I couldn't breach. I started hiding parts of myself again, not mentioning Amir during family visits, the tension at Sunday dinners suffocating as I swallowed my truth with every bite of Mom's casserole. The love I felt for Amir grew stronger. He'd cook me Persian dishes like gourmet sabzi in his tiny kitchen, the herby aroma filling the space as we laughed. But so did the guilt, a gnawing fear that I was choosing him over blood, or that I'd lose him if I couldn't stand up for us. By 2017, I was 22, graduating from Gonzaga, standing in the McCarthy Athletic Center in a cap and gown, the crowd's cheers echoing as I scanned for my family, hoping they'd show. They did, but their stiff congratulations felt hollow, no mention of Amir, who waited for me outside with a proud smile, the Spokane sun glinting off his glasses. I moved to Seattle with him that summer for a graphic design internship, renting a shoebox apartment near Capitol Hill, the city's vibrant hum a stark contrast to Spokane's quiet. Seattle felt like freedom, walking hand-in-hand with Amir along Pike Place Market, the salty ocean air mixing with the chaos of vendors. I felt like I could breathe for the first time. But every call home reminded me of the rift, Mom's voice tight when I hinted at my life, Dad barely speaking, and Nate sending texts that felt more like lectures. I'd stare out at the Puget Sound from our tiny balcony, the ferries gliding in the distance, torn between the joy of building a life with Amir and the pain of losing the family I'd always leaned on, wondering if I'd ever bridge that gap. Through 2018 and 2019, I was 23 and 24, settling into Seattle life, working freelance design gigs while Amir pursued his career in social work. We'd spend evenings at Gasworks Park, the city skyline glowing across Lake Union, talking about a future, maybe a house, maybe marriage, that felt both close and impossible. I loved the city's quirks, the coffee obsession, the rainy days that made our cozy movie nights feel sacred, but every holiday, without my family stung. I'd drive to Spokane for Christmas in 2018, the snowy roads winding through the Cascades, hoping for a thaw, but the judgment lingered, subtle digs about choices over hot cocoa, the old family photos on the wall a reminder of a closeness I'd lost. Memories of childhood sledding with Nate and Ellie at Manistash Ridge clashed with their silence now, and I'd return to Seattle, the Space Needle a distant beacon, feeling like a stranger to my own past, questioning if I'd sacrificed too much for love, or if love was the only thing keeping me whole. The twist came in late 2019, when I was 24, during a tense Thanksgiving call with Mom, her voice cracking through my phone speaker as I sat in our Seattle apartment, the rain tapping against the window. She finally let slip the real reason behind their rejection. Years before I was born, Dad had worked with an Iranian family on a business deal at the factory that went south, leaving him cheated out of savings and bitter for decades. Their prejudice wasn't just blind, it was personal, a grudge they'd buried until Amir's background dredged it up. I sat there, gripping my coffee mug, the steam rising as my mind raced, stunned by how a past I never knew shaped their view of my future. Anger flared. How could they punish me for their history? But so did a flicker of understanding, a glimpse into Dad's guarded pain. I felt betrayed all over again, but now with layers of confusion, wondering if I'd misjudged their hearts, or if their hurt excused mine. Through 2020, I was 25, navigating a world turned upside down by the pandemic, working from home in Seattle while Amir volunteered at community centers, his compassion a constant reminder of why I loved him. I'd sit at my desk, the gray Seattle sky outside, processing Mom's revelation, feeling torn between empathy for Dad's loss and fury at how it tainted my life. I'd walk alone along Alki Beach, the cold wind off the water biting as I thought about family barbecues in Spokane, Dad's rare laughs over grilled hot dogs, now shadowed by a bitterness I couldn't unsee. Amir sensed my struggle, cooking comfort food like pheasantjan, the sweet sour pomegranate sauce a bomb, but I couldn't shake the question. Did I owe my family a chance to explain, or had their silence already said enough? I started questioning if love meant fighting for them too, or if I'd already chosen my side. By 2021, I was 26, and life with Amir felt more solid. We'd moved to a slightly bigger place near Fremont. The quirky neighborhood street art a daily inspiration for my design work. I'd sketch at local cafes like Fremont Coffee Company, the aroma of roasted beans grounding me, but every family update from Ellie, now more open via text, reminded me of the distance. I visited Spokane less, the drive through Snoqualmie Pass feeling longer each time, and when I did, conversation stayed surface level, the old family den with its worn recliners a museum of unspoken hurt. Memories of teaching Ellie to ride a bike in our Hilliard Alley, her giggles echoing, haunted me, and I'd wonder if she missed me as much as I missed her, or if I'd become the family outcast for good. I started doubting if I'd been too quick to leave them behind, or if staying away was the only way to protect my heart. Through 2022, I was 27, thriving professionally with a steady design job, even landing projects for Seattle startups, the city's tech buzz energizing me. Amir and I celebrated small wins, like weekend trips to Olympic National Park, the misty forests a quiet escape, but the family rift loomed larger as I thought about bigger steps, proposing, starting a family of our own. I'd hike Hurricane Ridge with him, the vast mountain views stretching forever, wondering what Dad would think of a wedding he might not attend, or if Mom's guilt would ever outweigh her fear. I reached out once, a hesitant email to Nate about meeting halfway in Ellensburg, sent from a quiet coffee shop on Rainier Avenue. Heart racing as I waited for a reply that never came. I started questioning if my stubbornness matched theirs, or if I feared rejection more than I admitted, a realization that kept me up on rainy Seattle nights. Reflecting on this in early 2023, I was 28, spending quiet evenings in our Fremont apartment, the distant sound of the Aurora Bridge traffic a constant hum, thinking about how my family's judgment forced me to redefine home. I'd recall Spokane winters, shoveling snow with Dad, his gruff, "Good job," a rare treasure, now tainted by years of silence, wondering if he regretted his stance or if pride locked him in. Seattle's endless charm, from the bustling markets to the serene waterfront, grounded me, but the unresolved pain lingered, a shadow over every milestone with Amir. I started seeing my past differently, how I'd hidden my true self for so long, now questioning if I'd failed them by not fighting harder or if I'd saved myself by choosing love. Every time I passed the Museum of Pop Culture, its wild architecture a symbol of boldness, I'd ask if I'd been brave enough, or if I'd just run from the fight. By mid-2023, I'm 29, and my life feels fuller. Amir and I are planning a trip to Iran to meet his extended family, a step that feels huge, while my career keeps climbing with projects I'm proud of. We've built a circle of friends in Seattle, chosen family who celebrate us, like at impromptu dinners in Ballard, the laughter over craft beer a bomb. But the ache for my blood family persists, especially after a recent call with Ellie, her voice softer as she hinted Mom misses me, sent while I sat at Discovery Park, the ocean breeze carrying her words. I've thought about Dad's past, his loss, wondering if I've been too harsh, or if I'm right to guard my peace. Every time I drive through Spokane on rare visits, passing the old factory where Dad worked, the memory of his bitterness hits, and I question if I can ever fully reconcile without losing a piece of myself. The emotional weight of this unresolved divide hangs over me, even as Seattle's vibrant energy, its festivals, its late-night ramen runs, keeps me moving forward. I'd spend evenings at Golden Gardens Park, the bonfires flickering as I thought about how my family's rejection stole more than approval. It stole my belief that blood is unbreakable, leaving me cautious in ways I wish I wasn't. I started avoiding deep talks with them, even in rare texts, keeping things light, unable to face the full weight of their past, though every dodged topic made me wonder if I'm stalling healing or just protecting myself from more pain. I'd linger at the Chihuly Garden in Glass, the vibrant sculptures a burst of beauty, asking if I've been too slow to forgive or if rushing risks reopening old wounds. Reflecting on my past became a constant through late 2023, especially on quiet nights when I'd sit with a sketchbook on our couch, the city lights sprawling below, thinking about the family who'd once cheered my Little League games, now shadowed by years of hurt. I'd recall the time we camped at Lake Coeur d'Alene, Mom's rare silly side emerging over Esmores, a memory now bittersweet, wondering if she feels the distance, or if she's too ashamed to bridge it. I thought about my own pride, how I've built a life I love with Amir, now questioning if I failed them by not reaching out sooner, or if I've been too scarred to know how. Seattle's endless energy, the way it pulses with possibility, challenged me to decide if I could fully let go of this pain, or if some fractures just stay. Now, as I sit here in my Seattle loft, the Washington rain pattering against the window with the distant sound of ferries on the sound, I'm still wrestling with where to go from here. My life feels like it's on a beautiful path, with Amir by my side and a city that's embraced us, but there's an ache where my family's unconditional love should be, a fracture I don't know how to mend completely. There are moments when I think about driving back to Spokane for a real, no-holds-barred talk, maybe over coffee at a familiar spot like the Rocket Bakery, seeing if we can finally lay this to rest. Then there's the part of me that wants to keep building on these small steps, maybe invite Ellie to Seattle for a weekend, but I'm scared of pushing too fast, of finding out we can't rebuild what we had. So, I'm turning to you, my listeners, because I'm at a crossroads and I can't see the right path ahead on my own. Do I dive deeper into rebuilding with my family, risk the hard conversations, and open myself up to understanding their pain, even if it means reliving my own hurt? Or do I keep this slow pace, protect myself, and let time do the healing, even if it means leaving some things unsaid? And what about love? Can I truly balance my life with Amir and a family who might never fully accept us, or should I accept that some bonds stay broken? I've spent so long carrying this weight, trying to balance love with loyalty, but I don't know if I've got the strength to fully heal, or if I even should try. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story hit close to home, and subscribe if you want to follow how this all plays out. I'm reading every single piece of advice, because right now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something huge, and I don't know which way to step. Thanks for listening to my mess, for being here through the highs and lows of this journey. I'll catch you in the next one. But until then, let me know, what would you do if you were me?